today I'm going to mess with using acrylics in lots of different ways because there's so many really nice mediums, and all it is that acrylic is a plastic in suspension with a bonding agent. They're really, really convenient paints. They're easy to use, easy to store, easy to clean up, so long as you get rid of the plastics and don't just shove it all down the sink into the drainage system. And they can be used in so many different ways. I have shown how I mix this in another video. I'll put the link to the video in. So this is acrylic that I mix on my palette with a palette knife to a cream, put it in a pot, add some bonding agent and some water, and I end up with this. And the sediment does fall to the bottom, but you just give it a good stir before you use it. So I've got acrylics in suspension there to make them more liquid and more watery. So that's one thing. So there's all these different things you can use, and I'll put a list that streams through. So there's acrylic bonding agent, there's acrylic gloss and matte mediums, there's acrylic flow mediums, there's acrylic heavy body mediums. So there's this lovely potential for acrylic in all sorts of different forms. The other thing, of course, is the substrates that you use, the paper, the canvas, and the primers that you use. So, I mean, obviously you can use acrylic on paper and then frame up the paper because it's all archival and everything. So you can just see what it does directly on paper, because of course the paper is so much more absorbent than a canvas. You can do it on unprimed canvas, just straight onto the cotton, and of course it just dissipates really beautifully through the cotton or linen. You can do it on the primers, so you can prime a piece of canvas. So you just get a canvas or canvas board and you prime it to whatever you want. You either use the gesso, which is a much more absorbent type, it's chalky type of gesso, or you can use the acrylic primer. The finish is less absorbent. Also, there's a gesso now that's been developed that is semi-absorbent acrylic binder, so it acts more like a watercolor paper. Presumably you can get much more watercolor type effects on it when you use it. So I'm just going to try a few pieces, and I'll try them on canvas and I'll try them on papers, and then we can go from there. I think this will probably be a series. So I tried a series of ways of applying the paint. This is heavily painted on the background. That's a piece of acrylic paper and it is really nice. And I did the same with this one, but that's stretched paper and I think that was gessoed. But the idea was just to get colour onto a piece of paper, and then what I did was mark out the shapes, so that I marked out trees and so on. You can very slightly see the pencil, but you can get rid of those sort of marks, and did the negative so the trees came through, and I thought that was lovely. I thought if you could control the colour beneath a bit more. I mean, I really like these greys here. I've probably got that a little bit too bright. I like those greys. See these lovely colours. I also thought that these might need to be darker and then the glaze on top, but that was a really nice effect, and I thought I'd have a go with these two, so I'll have a go with those two and then show you the results, and this one. And also I think I'll keep one side light and do one side dark so I can see what the difference is to the marking out and the negatives, the way you can plan out the negatives and how well the paint takes. So I'll do them and then show you the results. So I've done one of those on this thing, and I've decided that I wanted the darker bits to the bottom and the lighter bits to the top, because I like this there, I think. The dark bits there, but I'll show you how I did it. So I applied the paint to a piece of paper that had been acrylic primed, and then I just used a sponge to apply colour so that I got a lovely sort of, I don't know, mottled effect. And then after that I've put a varnish on it, and you can draw through your trees with a pencil, or you can paint onto it and then take it out. You can actually just drag it out. So I'm going to try that. I'm just going to paint through the whole lot. This is just acrylic. I should have put a bit of flow medium in it. I don't like that blue, but we'll see what happens. And also I like a bit of the, put a bit of flow medium in that. I like a bit of the background showing through as well. But okay, so I've covered it all with paint. And now I can smooth it over if I want to. But don't go too berserk on it though, because you need to act quite quick now. And then you can actually drag out the colour. And can you? Yeah, you can drag out the colour using these lovely silicone brushes, you see. So you need a cloth and the silicone brush, and it naturally does all these really, really lovely lines as well, doesn't it? So that's pure simplicity, isn't it? So that was just acrylic that I've drawn over painted surface that has also been varnished. So that's a really nice effect. I mean, it's not by any means, you know, a perfected effect. Let's see if I take some water through it, it helps. See if we can clear it even more. And I must admit it is really nice. You know, just the funny marks that it makes. Even when it's not perfectly clear. But yeah, you can lift it through with the tissue paper too, look. I mean, it's an effect, isn't it? And then just play and see what happens. You could do it more purely and just paint out the negatives. Okay, I've just used a brush, a paintbrush, a wet paintbrush to lift out some of this colour, just to see if I can get it a bit cleaner. And I think maybe if it were brighter it would be more interesting. If the contrast is better there, you know, when it's bright orange. But in any case, it's just a method. I'm just seeing if it would work and how it works. So that's just the silicone one. That really lifts it out with a bit of water on it. And if I buried my silicone brush a bit, my silicone tool, and you could pretend you had a path through here. Take that out. It's just quite an interesting sort of possibilities, isn't it? Again, you could, seems like if you add a bit of water, yeah, you can then sort of lift it out with a, because it's partly dry. So it's just a question of varying what it is you're going to use and how you're going to use it. You know, whether you want it dark, light, and then it's just simplicity itself. You can use a bit of a sponge just to add some leaf textures. And if you use the sort of colours that you used originally on the background, then I suppose it's going to work a bit more. That's just wetter. I was just seeing what it would do if it was wetter. In any case, there are possibilities. And then you can even go through it again, can't you, to bring out the twigs again. Oh yeah, that works as well. Okay, I think I'll leave it at that. This was a really nice one. It was just one layer of thinned down acrylic on paper. I didn't stretch it, which was probably a mistake because then you get the ruckles that it forms. But then after that had dried, I then applied these lovely trees and branches, and you get this gorgeous background mess of lovely sort of things that happen. Oh, I applied the paint and then I sprayed it with my sprayer and it just diffused slightly. And I let it happen, and then of course I can go over this to redefine it if I want to, but that was a really nice effect. And this one was, so it was acrylic primer on paper. I'm just testing things out, and you can see the marks and things where the primer's applied. So I did quite a light wash of there's yellows and oranges and some blue in it, and then I just drew on the trees with a lovely silicone thing and some brushes with these diluted acrylics that I'd shown you, and they move, so they move through the acrylics, but also they move, you know, they move beautifully over the surface. This was a really lovely way of sort of, I don't know, bringing out colour and stuff. I don't like that pink on it. I've just done that to show you. But you can see what I mean. Even that's nice. You can see how nicely it sits. So that was good fun. Let me just see if I can show you with the colours that I've got. So there's that lovely orange mixed up. And look, you just bring it through and start drawing your trees. And you can do it with a paintbrush or one of these. And I've got a real thing about colour being dropped into it, so you then just drop colour in and let it seep into each other and don't touch it, you know. And it has this gorgeous effect. And these are perfect for drawing trees and, you know, adding these lovely marks. They work really well, and the dripping and stuff doesn't even seem to affect it. So that was really helpful. The blue was lovely with it too. And these are all dry, but you can see how it's moving through it. It moves through the liquid of the acrylic, but stays within the boundaries of the water tensions. And you get these gorgeous mark making. And presumably you can go over them, make them more dense. Okay, so that was that one. That was, go over it again, paper primed with acrylic primer, so presumably you can just do it onto canvas as well, and then these things and brushes used to apply the paint, and you just let the colour run through once it's applied. And of course you can turn it into a proper forest if you want to keep going on it. You know, once you've got all this down, you can keep going with all sorts of other stuff as well, can't you? That's not the end of it. You can paint on top of this. It's just a question of how you mark make, isn't it? How you want to use the medium. And I suppose sort of finding other ways of using it, which add interest.